On June 3, 2008, Secretary of State Rice gave a speech before a Jewish group, and once again she reiterated the need for a Palestinian state. On June the 6th, Secretary Rice announced that she was going to Israel from June the 14th through to June the 16th. On June the 6th, the very same day that she made her announcement, the stock market plunged nearly 400 points, while oil surged to a record high price. The value of the dollar was falling to record lows, and during June, the price of housing fell a record 16%. Secretary Rice went to Israel and met with both Israeli and Palestinian officials. Secretary Rice made it clear that she considered East Jerusalem as part of a Palestinian state. While Secretary Rice was condemning Israel, the Midwest of the USA was experiencing one of the worst floods in history. The massive flooding started on June the 7th, and by mid-June, nearly all of Iowa and parts of Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Minnesota, and Nebraska were experiencing the worst floods in history. Millions of farm acres were flooded, which led to massive destruction of crops and livestock. The flood damages reached $20 billion. During June, the president declared Iowa, along with parts of 5 other states, as major disaster areas. On August the 18th, 2008, Secretary of State Rice announced that she was going to Israel on August the 25th and 26th to continue the president's two-state plan. On this very same day, August the 18th, Tropical Storm Faye hit Key West, Florida. The storm brought torrential rain and flooding throughout the entire state, causing tremendous damage and causing President Bush to declare Florida a major disaster area. On August the 25th, Secretary of State Rice arrived in Israel to push the Annapolis Plan. On the very same day, August the 25th, Tropical Storm Gustav formed in the Caribbean. It headed northward toward the United States, and on August 29th, it would reach hurricane strength and strike west of New Orleans, causing major damage and long-term power failures in Baton Rouge. Secretary Rice's trip to Israel was bracketed by Tropical Storm Faye and Hurricane Gustav. On September 11, 2008, the U.S. Consul General to Israel, Jake Wallace, was quoted in the Palestinian newspaper El Ayam about the progress of the Annapolis Plan. Wallace stated that Israel agreed to give the Palestinians control of East Jerusalem. He also said that Secretary of State Rice's recent visits to Israel were about dividing Jerusalem. On September 11, the very same day, Hurricane Ike was heading directly towards Texas, and the Wall Street bank Lehman Brothers Holding was collapsing. Hurricane Ike was extremely large and powerful. It was 600 miles in diameter and had a massive 20-foot storm surge. Late on September 12, Ike struck and damaged almost the entire Texas coast and parts of Louisiana. The hurricane hit Texas just east of Galveston, and it nearly destroyed the entire city. The eye traveled north towards Houston, and most of the homes in Houston area lost power in the state's worst power disruption in history. The entire city was shut down for days, and the damage inflicted by this storm ranged in estimates from $27 to $52 billion, making it one of the most destructive in history. On September 13 and 14, negotiations to save Lehman Brothers failed, and it went into bankruptcy. At $613 billion, this was the greatest bank failure in United States history. This failure shocked the economic system and ignited a credit crisis which was like a heart attack to the entire economic system. The stock market immediately began to melt down. During the next 2 weeks, the stock market went into wild swings, falling and rising by huge numbers. This became the worst stock market crisis since the crash of 1929. To calm the people's fears, the president called for a $700 billion taxpayer bailout of the banks and stock market. The events of September make it one of the turning points in American and world history. The economic meltdown that started in July 2007 hit full force in September and carried over into October. This economic collapse can be compared only to the Great Depression of the 1930s. Economic forces were unleashed that affect the very survival of the United States. Is God judging America? Has America been weighed in the balances and found wanting, like Belshazzar, the king of Babylon? Is there still more to come? In 1962, the United States was conducting a series of high-altitude atmospheric nuclear tests, codenamed Operation Fishbowl, in the Pacific Proving Ground. On July 9, 1962, a high-altitude test known as Starfish Prime was conducted near Johnson Island, located about 750 miles southwest of Hawaii. This 1.4 megaton bomb caused an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, that disrupted radio stations and caused serious havoc with electrical equipment in Hawaii, some 750 miles away from the site of the blast. This explosion even disrupted radio navigation equipment as far away as the east coast of Australia. Consequently, in 1963, the United States and the Soviet Union signed the Atmospheric Test Ban Treaty to counter the considerable threat posed by electromagnetic pulse weapons. In 2004, 9 of America's most elite members of the scientific community, under the direction of Dr. William R. Graham, established the Commission to assess the threat to the United States from an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, attack. On July 22, 2004, the Commission handed down its startling report in which it described an electromagnetic pulse attack as a terrorist's dream and an American nightmare. Dr. William Graham, who is one of the most senior analysts within the strategic community, believes that one single electromagnetic pulse device over a Midwest city such as Indianapolis could disable the electric and electronic services to over 70% of America's population. One single electromagnetic pulse weapon could cripple the USA in a split second by knocking out all electrical power and telecommunication systems. Systems could be down for weeks or months or even years. It would be as if the United States had slipped back into the year 1880. There would be no electricity. There would be no television to hear the news. No electronic communications such as telephones or the internet. There would be no ATMs and no banks. No fuel supply, as the gas pumps would not function. There would be no refrigeration, and those food supplies would quickly perish. One single nuclear weapon exploded at high altitude is all it would take to bring America to her knees. Such a problem is looming on the horizon right now, with Iran on the brink of developing nuclear weapons. Iran's radical leader, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has repeatedly vowed he will wipe Israel off the map. In October 2005, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad hosted the World Without Zionism conference in Iran, in which he often led the crowd in the chant, "Death to America, death to Israel," in that order, as he knows he needs to destroy America first to get to Israel. Interestingly, behind the podium was a huge poster depicting two images plummeting from an hourglass and being smashed. The first was America, and the second was Israel. In 2006, Iran test-fired a Shahab-3 missile from a barge in the Caspian Sea and announced they had achieved a successful mid-flight detonation. Nobody tries to achieve a mid-flight detonation as they serve no practical purpose. But Jane's intelligence service instantly identified the situation and stated, Iran is practicing for an electromagnetic pulse attack. Iran doesn't need a high-tech intercontinental ballistic missile or ship-launched missile system, as the emphasis is for altitude and not on accuracy. Iran could launch such an attack from the deck of a container ship 100 miles off the American coast.